Hi, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Meet the Populace. Meet the Populace is a series of interviews to showcase the fantastic people we have in the Midrealm. I am your host, Lady Vinkatavyani, and tonight I'm happy to present, it's not Lady, it's Astrid Thorsdottir. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm not a lady yet.
So that implies you haven't gotten your AOA yet. How long have you been in the SCA?
I've only been in the SCA for about a year and a half. December of 2017 is when I started.
Oh, wow. So you're very new.
Yeah.
So how did you first learn about the SCA?
Yeah. Well, I moved to Indiana in November of 2017 and quickly met some other colleagues when I moved here, and one of them was Lord Littlejohn, and he is in my current shire, and we met for something unrelated to the SCA, and he just started talking about sword fighting and archery and all of these things, and was pulling out pictures of Penzik, and I was like, what in the world is this? Like, I was completely clueless about this world until he kind of just shoved me into it. And I was so ready to meet people in this new place that I was very excited for anything. And being a history lover myself was like, oh, like a group of nerds. I'm so ready for a group of nerds. Like, yeah.
We are the biggest organization of history nerds that I know.
And I love it.
So, Neil, we were talking before we started the interview, and you actually hold an officer position. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I am the Minister of Arts and Sciences for the Shire of Serencotha in the Kokomo area of Indiana. And we had an MOAS, but she and her husband moved down to Louisville. And so Tetradia is her name, and she and her husband Bodo moved to Louisville, and so that officer position opened up. And before I even entered the world of SCA, I am like a craft collector. Any kind of crafting that exists in the world, I want to gather and do as much of it as possible. And so I mostly wanted this position because I was curious about learning more and being very proactive about trying to plan events and to schedule things so that I could learn more about stuff I was curious about.
So when you first learned about the SCA, is that what attracted you, the crafting aspect, or was there something else that caught your attention right off the bat?
I mean, I was excited about archery in my specific shire. Aside from what's going on right now, we normally have weekly shoots. And so during the nice weather, we have a person from our shire whose yard we get to go and do archery and thrown weapons. And then during the winter months, there is an archery range that we go to weekly. And so I was really excited about those weekly chances to shoot archery. I was curious about the combat things. I have since decided I'm not physically fit enough for that world. I can't imagine putting on all of that armor. Like, I just had practice armor on and then going into battle. Like, it blows my mind. But all of those things made me really curious, plus learning things from Laurel's about bookbinding and, cooking medieval style, and all of that stuff just perked my ears up to come in.
So what was your first actual event then, and because you haven't been here very long,
Right.
What really caught you at that event?
Yeah, so my first event was Better War through Archery, and that would have been in 2018. And it was so cold. It was not snowing, but it was cold. And half of the event is outside because we're shooting archery for it, in this thing. And and I just remember freezing. I didn't have a cloak yet. I was in like passable garb, but nothing historically accurate. And so I was freezing my buns off and did most of the things, the activities that were available inside. But I really enjoyed is it called Merchants Row? I don't know what they officially call it at Better War, but where they have all the merchants line up and you can look at all the cool things and the feast available and things like that were it was like I stepped into a fairy tale experience, but it wasn't make-believe, it was based on history.
That's, you know what, that's actually pretty cool. We love seeing the people that come in and they just get so enthusiastic right from the start. You know, it's what keeps the SCA alive and lively. So I think a lot of us have a tendency to think of the MOAS position, Minister of Arts and Sciences, as a teacher or a facilitator position. But what is something that you have actually learned from your time in the SCA?
One of the things I was most grateful about and why I was willing to take the MOAS position was the affirmation that I didn't have to know everything, and that the SCA is a world of resources, of people and gathered information, and all you have to do is reach out to somebody and they're ready to just share and pour out information on you. We have a shire that we do a lot of interacting with, the Shire of Narantal. And their Laurel Maestress, I'm never going to pronounce this right, Maestrin Katerina Helena, she has like the most amazing house filled with like bookbinding equipment and all of these different things, and then hosts cooking classes during the summer at her place. And it's just was so relieving to know I didn't have to know everything. I could reach out to other people and they would share their knowledge with me. And so one of the first classes we took was making archery arm guards, and then skirt hikes and mug straps. And that I didn't have to know how to do it. I was able to ask some people to come in and help, and they were able to help me arrange all of the resources we needed and everything. And I just have loved how everybody in the SCA that I have interacted with is so open to sharing their wealth of knowledge with you.
That's, you know what, and that's one of the coolest things about the SCA is like it's one great big knowledge pool. It doesn't matter if you know the person or not, you can ask them a question and they'll share. So
exactly.
That's pretty amazing. So with all of this that you've been doing, and you know, it seems like you just come right straight in full of energy and everything, but who's someone that has really impacted you, has kind of helped encourage you on your path in the SCA?
Yeah, there's been a few people that come to mind. One of them is a woman named Kathy. She hasn't really stuck to a persona title or name officially. She's changed it a few times, but her name is Kathy in our shire, and she has been so gracious and generous and encouraging as I have been learning how to sew. Like I owned a sewing machine at one point in time. I moved to Indiana and I didn't have one anymore, mostly because I didn't know how to use it, so I got rid of it. And she helped me get the courage to buy one, to learn how to put it all together, and it really gave me the guts to try doing putting garb together. And in companion to her, Maestrin Katerina Helena was also somebody that helped me to make my first piece of garb. I made a t-shirt tunic dress, and I had bought some super cheap cotton fabric. Like the thing is basically see-through, so I don't actually wear it unless it's like underneath something. But it was exciting to have some people that, like I said before, that took their time to help me feel brave enough to try something new, to branch out. And so Kathy and Lady Katerina are two that really stand out to me in that sense.
That sounds like some pretty awesome people to have in your corner.
Yeah, definitely.
So you might have figured out that the SCA is a group of storytellers. We love stories. We love to tell stories. We love to hear stories. So we were speaking a little bit before we started, and you said you actually have some stories to share. What memorable story do you have to share with us?
Yeah, some of the ones I think about are, first off, so my SCA name is Astrid Thorsdottir, and the reason my last name is Thorsdottir is because there is a gentleman in our shire named Thor, and he's another one. Thor Erickson has kind of taken me under his wing. He's now a lord. He's also our archery thrown weapons marshal. And so some of my weapons that I have, like this Viking axe, are because of him and his encouragement to get involved. Anyway, so he wasn't planning on coming to this event that we were going to go to where he was supposed to get his award. And so we were supposed to try to convince him to come and to go to court and to go to feast. And so we're all conniving together trying to figure out how we can convince him. And so there's a few of us that are Thor's daughters. And so we all rally together and are like, Papa Thor, you have to come. You're our dad. You have to be there. And so we finally were able to convince him, and we all sat together for court. And so when they called his name, he turns bright red, and his jaw is dropping, and he's like this big burly Viking man and is standing up completely speechless, walking to the front to the king and queen. And it was a priceless moment. And then that night in the middle of feast, it started to blizzard. And the event was supposed to end after feast, and everybody was supposed to drive home, and I had to work the next morning, and so we had to take all these back roads because the highway was getting shut down. And we will not forget that event because the weather and getting him there was it was an ordeal.
Oh my gosh. That sounds like it was fun though, despite the weather.
Yeah, it was very memorable. My husband also won some archery competition things, so he was excited because he got to go home with 2 bottles of wine. And he he just got an award from King Seto just before it was the very last court and giving of awards before our new king and queen stepped in, and that as King Seto stepped down. So it was it was a fun time. We just had a blast, that's for certain.
Well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just commenting. Did you have another story?
Yeah, I was gonna say the other one I was thinking about was 50 year, when we celebrated the Middle Kingdom's 50th year. That was my first time camping with the SCA. And so we had bought a tent and all these camping supplies, and it was a wet event. There was so much rain and mud, and we ended up having to go to Walmart in SCA gear, buying wood chips to put around our campsite so that we didn't just keep sinking into the mud, so that we wouldn't lose our shoes in the mud. And so we laugh about all of that, but we had fun at the campfire with our shire, and how we all got to camp together and cook together. And I got to take some really fun classes. I took an embroidery class, and that was the first time I'd ever even tried anything like that, and that was really exciting. And now our shire was supposed to have an event the end of this month, and lo and behold, we have postponed it to next year. But because I learned how to do embroidery, our site tokens, we're going to use embroidery site tokens for that. And so it was exciting to be able to apply something that I learned at an event to that. But I just really enjoyed it at 50 Year, the camaraderie you got to experience, I don't remember, is it called the Thirsty Duck? Is that what where they have they did a bardic circle?
I remember, but I don't remember what the name of it was.
Yeah,
I was there taking photos.
Yeah, and it was just beautiful to hear these different bards come up and sing and tell stories, and it's like they just had like strings of light that made it almost like candlelight in there, and it was just such a cool experience. Drink some mead, listen to some bards, and hear the quiet crickets outside, and just feel some kind of connection with history and with nature.
So in all the stuff that you've been picking up and learning and everything, what's something that you would like to learn and perhaps master before your time in the SCA is over?
Yeah. So like I said before, like I'm a crafter through and through, and I love crafting, and I have a habit of purchasing supplies before learning how to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's two that I have that one of them I tried figuring out on my own, and I realized I just need to have somebody teach me. I have two different types of looms. I have an inkle loom, and then I have like a little tabletop loom that you would use for like making tapestries or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so the classic style loom I tried to use on my own, and like, you just have to, rig up the strings and start weaving it. Like, what do you need to know? And I basically made a giant knot of yarn and thread is what ended up happening. So bottom line is I hope to take a class on basic weaving and then inkle loom eventually. I have them both, but I've just caught myself being anxious about failing. And I know that if I said that around any of the people that know how to use it, they'd be like, get your thing, I'll bring supplies, we're gonna sit down for an afternoon and you'll learn and it'll be fine. I know that if I said that would happen. I just haven't stepped up and done so.
Well, you know what? You just said it.
It's true. It happened.
So, heck, they're going to know now.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time. We are out of time for this particular interview, but it has been a true pleasure to meet you. And I really wish you luck on your crafting journey and your learning journey. And I really hope that your enthusiasm infects more people and we keep the SCA going.
Thank you so much for this chance to chat. I'm really missing the normalcy of our Shire's, events and things, and it was nice to feel some connection and to put on garb and to remember some of those historical things I've been missing.
Well, tell them all that you love them because they're going to see this.
Yes, I do. I love my Shire so much. They are basically, my husband and I met in the Shire and got married just this last January, and all but two of the people in our wedding party were people we met in the SCA. So I desperately love them, and I'm grateful for them introducing me to my husband and the life we've gotten to journey with together.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you again so very much for being with us. This has been an episode of Meet the Populace. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you wish to contact me at Meet the Populace, you can send an email to the email address at the bottom of your screen. Thanks again, Astrid, and I hope you have a great SCA evening.
Awesome. Thank you very much.